I swear by the Gita
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth. Today, I just wanted to start by saying how deeply sorry I am to all of those who lost loved ones, family members through the pandemic, and also all those who suffered in the various different ways throughout the pandemic and as a result of the actions were taken. I've thought a lot about this over the past couple of years. It's important that we learn the lessons so that we can be better prepared in the future.
You don't now have access to any of the WhatsApps that you did send during the time of the crisis, do you?
No, I don't. I've changed my phone multiple times over the past few years, and as that has happened, the messages have not come across.
The administration is described privately as brutal and useless, or criminally incompetent, or operationally chaotic.
The point, though, Mr. Keith, is that debates raged. I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing.
No, indeed.
I mean, it's right that there was vigorous debate because these were incredibly consequential decisions for tens of millions of people in all spheres, whether it was health, whether it was education, whether it was economic, whether it was social, whether it was the long-term impacts. These were incredibly big decisions, the likes of which no Prime Minister had taken in decades, if ever.
Wasn't the scientific evidence, the epidemiological evidence from SAGE and from the CMO and the GCSA, was that the measures which had been agreed, first proposed and then agreed, were at the riskier end of the spectrum? Were you not aware that the scientists were beginning to question the speed at which the roadmap was operating? Do you recall that being brought to your attention?
No. I think they always thought that from the beginning. I think they thought it was consistent with our not being above 1, but I think from the beginning they thought it was at that end of the spectrum. It was closer to 1 than it was to 0.1, if I could put it that way. But they were involved and modelled the package of measures that was announced in May. I think that's important.
Well, they didn't model the package, Mr. Sunak. They gave advice through SAGE on what the consequences would be of the package. Is unanimous that had they been consulted, they would have advised it was highly likely to increase transmission. And whilst, of course, it's a policy matter over which they wouldn't have had the whip hand, it was an issue on which they would have expected to be consulted.
But they've not said that to me. I've not seen that. And as I said, they had ample opportunity to raise those concerns between the announcement of the scheme and its implementation. None of them chose to do so in any fora that they were in. And I think all of them have said on the record, as the evidence also conclusively demonstrates, that this was in way, no shape or form responsible for a second wave, which was predicted by the CMO and CSA as early as my first conversation with them in March, and happened in every other country in Europe.
Some officials in Number 10 described the Treasury as the pro-death squad, obviously on account of the fact that the Treasury was seen to be opposed to maximum public health interventions and was quite properly, as we've established, promoting the issue of the need to avoid economic and societal damage and harm. Were you aware that the Treasury was being referred to in those terms? You may not have been aware.
I wasn't, and I do not think it is a fair characterisation
Indeed.
On the incredibly hard-working people that I was lucky to be supported by at the Treasury. And in the same way earlier, you talked about the people at SAGE being motivated by doing what they thought was best in the public interest. I would say exactly the same about all the people who worked with me at the Treasury, who worked extremely hard throughout the entire period, and as you kindly alluded to earlier in the IFG report, are widely considered to have done some things that no one had thought possible, that saved millions of people's livelihoods and helped the economy get through, and therefore help families get through and support the country through a difficult time. I'm grateful to them for what they did, and I said I don't think that is a fair characterisation of how they approach their jobs at all. Those jobs and people would have to be let go.
Sorry, forgive me for cutting across you, because time is short, and I know that you wouldn't be trying to talk me down on the clock. My question was very specific. What were the specific measures or considerations in its design to address the vulnerabilities of ethnic minority workers in the hospitality sector? That was my question.
Well, just before you answer, Mr. Sunak, Mr. Thomas, I think that comment was inappropriate. So please just answer the question, Prime Minister, and ignore the reference to your deliberately talking Mr Thomas out.
Thank you, Milady.